I think that, you know, and I'm glad we've got into this conversation so soon. We'll get into the science in a bit. Don't worry. We've got it there. It's coming. But what I find interesting is that the deaf community is one that is, you know, as far as, you know, the disabled community goes, the deaf community are a group of people that a lot of people in the deaf community don't want to be seen as disabled, and they reject the label disabled, which you really only see otherwise, and I guess sort of the autistic community and you know, groups like that, because you can be almost entirely self-sufficient when you're deaf. It just takes people paying attention to the fact that you're deaf and taking that into account, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's all it takes.
I went to a workshop at Cannes this year with people who, some of whom identified as differently abled as opposed to disabled, and they weren't deaf or weren't necessarily deaf, and they weren't necessarily autistic. They were had different abilities, sometimes physical abilities, and they are identified as differently abled. So I just thought it was worth bringing in there.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. My point is not just the term disabled or differently able.
I get that as a deaf person, because in some sense it is a disability, right? However, I'm not like, I haven't, you know, there's nothing wrong. I have very good sight, you know, my physical mobility is fine. It's just, I guess I can't hear so much. But like, it's weird, because I feel like I do fit and I don't fit into this disabled, or what I suppose people think of when they hear the word disabled as well. You know, people hear the word disabled, or see the word disabled. Anyway.
Not quite woke enough there, Elliot.
People see the word disabled and they will think of someone in a wheelchair, or think of just a disability that isn't necessarily deafness, and it's a spectrum.
Yay! I do think I'm glad you brought that up, because that was the next point I was about to make, that I think the rejection of the disabled label has got less to do with actually being disabled, you know, in the sort of strictest sense of the word, and more with the social view of what disability is. And I guess as well, we could very briefly talk about the social model of disability, right? Wherein the classic example is, imagine that, you know, tomorrow you wake up and everybody's got sort of wings and everyone's able to fly, and they start, you know, removing stairs and, you know, all of that sort of stuff. So you can't fly, but you're perfectly able to get up to that building if they just have stairs there. And why are there not stairs? I can get there if you give me stairs. That's kind of an idea of the social model of disability, that disability comes not necessarily from, you know, within the person or within the disability itself.
It's a societal sort of, definitely. Like the societal, like, accessibility to things. You know, for example, if I went to this, I think about this all the time when I go to like screenings and events. I just wish they would subtitle it. The amount of people who aren't deaf who use subtitles because they have auditory processing disorder, or because they just find it helps, because I'm not gonna lie, TV nowadays has so many sounds going on at once. It can be really difficult, and also the actors' lips might not always be visible on the screen when they're talking. I just think that subtitles should just be everywhere, or just used in cinema way, way, way more than they actually are.
I don't see a problem with it.
It just makes it so accessible to people. And what you were saying about societal.
Just to touch on the subtitles part, I think it's interesting because Noah, the fifth SCI guy, uses subtitles constantly because he has ADHD and it helps him focus on what is being said. I can use subtitles, and I sometimes like having subtitles on. Other times I get too focused on reading subtitles, or the subtitles are bad and they ruin jokes. And so I will, if I'm watching a comedy and I can have the subtitles off, generally I will turn them off because the subtitles are bad. Nothing to do with the subtitles themselves. But then I also have a friend who also probably has ADHD and cannot stand subtitles because that's all that they can focus on. Like we've watched a film with them, and they're like, I've seen them literally hold up a piece of paper to cover the bottom of the screen because Noah was like, I need subtitles or this is unintelligible to me.
Yes.
And this friend was like, well, I need to have this covered or I cannot watch it. And like I get like having subtitles everywhere. That would probably be for the best. But it's so interesting how these different sort of accessibility needs can conflict with one another.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
It feels like you could just have a again, I'm just going to say I went to Cannes again this year. It just feels like a
Did you go to Cannes? Did you go to Cannes, the film festival? Cannes?
It's a coincidence that this is 2 stories so far have come up. I went to Cannes this year, below the cinema screens, because we're in France and not everyone's speaking English because it's an international festival.
Oh, you went to an international film festival?
Oh,
Cannes.
yeah, to Cannes, yeah.
Oh, cool.
They had like a little mini screen underneath, almost like a Nintendo DS. Underneath all the screens, there's a little mini screen that has the subtitles on.
Oh.
And that was great. But then you're right, like it might be annoying if you, for example, are somebody who cannot pay attention to anything when the subtitles are there. That might be difficult in a different way. We could just have like little 3D glasses or something.
I was thinking, yeah.
So
that is a
it's
thing,
invisible
isn't it?
if you don't have the glasses on.
Yeah, well, there are so many ways that we can make things accessible.
What's that, Cannes?
No,
I went to Cannes this year.
There are so many ways that we could make things accessible.
Yeah.
Anyways, so, no, I find it really, really interesting how all of this sort of works. And I think that the deaf community is one that is really almost the poster child for this. I'm rejecting the label disabled because I'm not disabled. You're the problem. And I understand that to a great degree. Like, I really get it. Like with ADHD, it's very much a thing of like, okay, look, there are issues that I deal with and there are issues that I'm going to deal with regardless of having ADHD or not. But also you could make life easier for me.
Absolutely.
Look, I'm going to be 5-10 minutes late. Don't be on me for that because I'm coming in and I'm doing more work than you anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like, okay, this deadline is a bit of an issue. If it can be moved by a day, let it move by a day and don't have a go at me for it because I have a disorder. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I get rejecting the label disability, and I get pointing out where accessibility is like, it could, where we making things accessible could make life easier. But also, I think that we need to really sit and think about how we feel about the label disabled, because, again, society has put all of these connotations on the label disabled. But if you just put your hands up and say, look, there are some things that, because of the way my body works, the way my brain works, blah, 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 there are some things that I can't do that other people do, or certain needs that I have that other people maybe don't have. And, if it crosses a certain threshold, then we call that disability. I don't think that's necessarily like a bad thing. And I think it would be really beneficial to sort of remove those negative connotations of disability, because if it was just a neutral thing of like, hey, I'm disabled in this way, that's perfectly fine. And I'm not saying that that deaf people should want to call themselves disabled or whatnot. I totally understand it. I'm just saying, as a general sort of societal move, having less of a stigma towards disability, I think, would be a net positive for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I had so many things that I've like started thinking about as well. Like, if we're talking about like society and the way it views things, I was on the BBC, All That Glitters, jewelry making.
You were on the BBC?
Yeah, I was on the.
Oh my god, are we just dropping like fun things that we've done?
No, but I was gonna say, like, as a deaf person, watching a hearing person put the ear cuffs that had been made for me on, watching someone who was hearing put those on, and like just seeing how they'd sort of like accessorized their ear and made it look cool. I was like, I wish everyone just could wear ear jewelry like that. And like, it was just what you said about sort of like just having this net place that society is at would if
you're not understanding what I'm meaning, or you're like, what are you talking about? Okay, let me just, if you're watching this, let me just very quickly illuminate exactly what I mean. I am disabled in that I cannot see without, like, I can't see, my hand is in focus. For everyone listening, I've just taken off my glasses because I don't have contacts in today. I can't see my hand in focus until it's here. For anyone listening, that's about 6 inches away from my face. I would literally be disabled if it were not for the fact that glasses are accessible and affordable and just easy to get. And people don't look down on people for wearing glasses, to the point where what you were saying there, where, glasses are now jewelry. People will wear glasses when they don't need to wear glasses because they look cool.
Absolutely.
In the same sense that I feel like you're saying, oh, it'd be cool if people wore hearing aids, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, just like ear cuffs and like cool.
I think your hearing aids look really tight. Like I would literally wear that because I'm like, that's a cool, like, you've got like a red in your ear. That's like a cool way to accessorize, right?
I've started color coordinating with the red. Like, honestly, here's the thing. I came from a place of being so ashamed of my deafness. Right? When I was, especially, okay, for anyone watching who doesn't know who I am, I'm also trans, and I used to have long hair, and it would cover my hearing aids because I was too scared of people seeing them. But then sort of with transitioning, I wanted to cut my hair short, and that was like the first time in my life that I was showing off my hearing aids. And then I sort of started to reach a point where I was like, I actually shouldn't feel ashamed of this anymore, and if anything, want to show it off and make it visible. And especially what we've been saying about society and like how people perceive you, I kind of want people to see that I'm deaf, because I need people to know that they need to be patient with me. And one of the things that you were saying about, if you've got ADHD and you've got this deadline due, you're asking them for patience. You're just asking them for understanding. And like, that's kind of how I want the public to be like. Most of the time they're fine when I tell them I'm deaf, and they're like, oh, I'm really sorry, I didn't realize. But like, I've not really had any major problems. I've had a couple, but
well, I would actually argue that I don't think people need to be patient with you. And this is, Elliot, this is coming from my interactions with you and other people, in that I've seen situations, and I've tried to be more conscious of this myself since having conversations with you about this, but all you need most of the time is, if you're in a loud environment, is for people to look at you when they're talking.
Yes.
And it's not hard. It's not hard at all. But like, I look around when we're in a group talking, I look around and people just don't think about it. And all it takes is just, hey, think about this just a little bit, and it's all good. I don't even think you need patience, because when people are giving you patience, it's because they're not giving you what you need in the first place. You know what I mean? Which is just,
I think what I mean is
involving you.
Yeah. So like, I've started work. I've got this retail job recently, and it's I won't say where it is because I don't want to dox myself, but
it's in the description. I put it down in the description.
It's in London somewhere, and a lot of the customers that we get in might have an accent or might have flown in internationally from somewhere, and I really struggle with accents and stuff, so it's just like, I guess, patience in that sense, because I will be asking them to repeat themselves a lot.
Fair.
It's I was gonna say, in terms of like allyship to a deaf person, what you were saying within our friendship group, Noah's birthday, where we all went go-kart racing, and he literally, everyone was gathered round getting the instructions before we went and did it, and Noah came and grabbed me and put me at the front, like literally was like, mate, can you hear him okay? Can you lip read okay? And I was just like, that is so considerate. Like, that was a real standout moment to me, where a friend has actually been considerate in that way.
Yeah.
It's not like I expect people to make a massive deal out of it, but like what you said, just being considerate and like thinking, oh, there's a deaf person in this situation, I don't want to exclude them.
Well, I get it. It's the bare minimum though. And again, to bring it back to the glasses thing, this is not me being like, oh yeah, wearing glasses is the same as being blind or being deaf. That's not my point. My point is that it literally would be, were it not for all of the infrastructure and, the social sort of accessibility that we've got to the sort of like aids that you need to, sort of engage with the world when you have like a myopia or something.
There's also lots of positive social connotations to wearing glasses.
Yeah.
Like, and there, someone once asked me about this. I don't know if you get this. Like, sometimes people just ask me things and expect me to know the answer because we do a science podcast.
Literally all the time.
And they asked me like, why are glasses seen as sexy? So I went away and did some research, and like, apparently it's like in part because there's some correlation between a gene that causes poor eyesight and intelligence level. Whether that's true, I don't know. But imagine if it was like, oh, you're wearing hearing aids, you must have fantastic fashion sense.
I absolutely do.
I mean, if we're looking at Elliot, honestly, yeah. I don't want to curtail this conversation, but I'm gonna have to get into the science. The last thing I'll say on this.
No. Let's get into science.
The last thing I'll say is, again, look, glasses are a thing that are ubiquitous across sort of society, right? We all like know someone that wears glasses. In fact, we don't even think about people that we know that wear glasses because we don't even think about it, right? And with a lot of different aids for disability, or a lot of different disabilities, we could just have that view, that sort of outlook, and that mode of dealing with them, and yet we don't, right? And when I'm saying like, all it takes is that little bit of consideration. Like, if I'm not wearing my glasses and someone knows that, like if I've just woken up and I'm like, oh, I don't have my glasses on, or I'm like, hey, can you point out where they are because I don't remember where I left them. Like it's just being, oh, there they are, or let me show you this on your phone, and like holding it up to my face so I can see it. It's like little things like that aren't even like things. It's just bearing in mind who you're interacting with, right? Like, that's all it takes.
By the way, I was going to say, you look so smart.
Oh, thank you.
In an intelligent way, not in a formal way.
I put on my glasses whilst Corey was talking about glasses.